Hi everyone! Long time no see, and as always, if you want to skip straight to the ranking, you can skip to this timestamp right here. Otherwise, I'm going to go into my rules and parameters. They're not going to be that long, but still, I have them. And if you're wondering who I'm dressed up as, if this wasn't a giveaway, within itself, I'm dressed up as Roxanne from the Goofy movie. This is one of my two costumes I'm wearing this year. My second one is Tobey Maguire's Venom Spider Man, but I thought since we were talking about horror movies, I should dress up, not as a horror movie villain or anything, but in costume because this is coming out, I think, 2 or 3 days before Halloween. So now that you've seen the full costume, or at least as much as that's in frame, I decided to put the hair up because I cannot do this entire video with all that hair on me. So let's get into the rules and parameters. As for my rules and parameters, I looked up the dictionary definition of what classifies as a horror movie. Along with that, I literally went on Google and typed in horror movies. And basically, I went off the dictionary definition of horror movies and what Google classified as a horror movie, right? Because there's different types of horror movies, and some movies it's debatable, like whether it's considered horror or whether it's considered a thriller. And to some people, a thriller isn't horror, but then to other people, thrillers are horror. So that's another reason as to why I just went straight to Google and see what Google classified as a horror movie. Along with that, I did not include every single horror movie I've ever seen. I know that's in the title, but I'm telling y'all, horror is one of my favorite genres. So if I did every single horror movie I've ever seen, then we'd be sitting here for a very, very, very long time. My list is already of 28 horror movies, so it'd be well over that. I also wanted to only include horror movies that I felt like I remembered enough to talk about, right? Like years and years of watching horror movies. So there's some movies that I might have seen that I do not remember enough to truly sit here and talk about. So there's not that many movies that fit that category, but again, I just didn't feel confident putting horror movies on here that yes, I've seen them, but it's been so long I don't remember the plot. I would just be saying stuff to say stuff. I don't feel like I'd be able to give an accurate ranking on it because I do not remember what happened in the movies. Also, I'm not going to be going based off of whether I believe these movies are scary because genuinely till this day I have never actually watched a horror movie that I find scary, and I mean that. I literally watched the It franchise one night by myself sitting on my couch, and then I had a beautiful night's rest right afterwards. And I told my sister about that, and she was like, "You watch horror movies at night?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they don't scare me. I'm simply going to be basing them off of, do I like the story? Do I like the plot? Do I like the progression of things that happen in the movie?" One thing I also did is if a movie is a franchise, so that being there's more than one movie with that name, I put them all together. Like for example, the Conjuring movies, there's quite a few of them. So instead of giving each movie their own little section, I just put it as the Conjuring series because when you really think about movie series, they're either a continuation or they're a backstory to the first movie we've seen. So basically, they all take place in the same universe, and if they're following the same characters, then again, it's just further expanding the original story. And so therefore I thought it would be better to put them all in one category instead of giving them their own separate things. And I only did this for movies where I'd seen all the movies in the franchise. If I hadn't seen all the movies in the franchise, then I put standalone movies. Those are basically what I'm going to be using to kind of decide where to put these horror movies. And of course, this is all my opinion. So if you would disagree with me, feel free to tell me in the comment section. Tell me where you would have put the movie. But let's get into the ranking. These movies are in absolutely no particular order. So, starting with the first one, we have Jennifer's Body. Now, I recently watched Jennifer's Body over again with my friend, and as it goes for horror, especially when you compare it to the horror movies on this list, it's definitely not the most fear centered. I feel like it is a horror movie that also plays into the comedy of being a teen movie, like a movie that centers, a teen girl getting possessed by a demon and now she eats boys, right? So the movie, I don't believe, is supposed to be a completely serious horror movie, and I think with that in mind it executes that very well. So straight up, because my heart is telling me so, I'm going to put Jennifer's Body at 15. The next movies we have is A Quiet Place series. The A Quiet Place series. I actually remember watching the first A Quiet Place movie my sophomore year of high school. Like, it was during this time period at the end of my sophomore year of high school where I used to practically every Friday rent a movie from Redbox, get some ice cream, and then go home and watch a movie. And I genuinely did enjoy the movie and the expanding of the series. I do enjoy it. I very much like the element of the quietness, right? You know, a lot of the acting is nonverbal, and I think that truly adds to the series because when you think about it as being real, can you imagine living your life so quietly? Like, you don't even realize how much noise you make as a human by simply walking from your bed to the bathroom or from your bed downstairs to the fridge, you know? So I think this series really, I would say, overall executes the fear of silence. And so for that, I think I'm going to put it at the number 13 spot. And the reason I'm putting it at 13 is because though I do think it is a good series and I do like the concept of the quietness and I do love the nonverbal acting, I can already tell you there's series and movies on here that if they were all lined up, I would probably choose before this one, even though it is a good series. Next up, we have Annabelle Comes Home. Now, again, I have not seen all the Annabelle movies, but I would say out of the ones I have seen, this one is my favorite. I really like the element of us seeing what all the things that Ed and Lorraine have trapped in their basement can do. Like, obviously not all of them, but it's like us getting a look into what their missions that we didn't see on camera were about. And I also like the fact that we get to see more of their daughter Judy, because if you know, in the regular Conjuring series, she does come up as a character, but she's not as prevalent. We don't get to see as much about her. So to see a new side of Judy in the Annabelle Comes Home movie as her being kind of like this expert, you know, kind of because of her parents and almost practically leading the charge and helping the other people be able to escape the evils that girl's friend, I don't remember her name off the top of my head, I'm sorry, unleashed on the house. I liked seeing that side of Judy, seeing more of Judy. So for that, I think I'm going to put Annabelle Comes Home at number 8. That might be a little too brave at this point since we still got a lot more movies to go through, but I'm going to put number 8 for now. Next up, we have The Invitation. I've already done kind of a video on The Invitation. I will link it down below. I compared The Invitation and I believe the movie is called Ready or Not. I compared those two because those movies, I immediately noticed they were very similar. And I am a sucker for, no pun intended, vampire movies, vampire TV shows. I've just always loved them. And the one thing I like about The Invitation is the fact that it's one of those movies where you do not notice certain things until you watch it a second time, which is something I completely absorbed when I was gathering all the info to make a video on that movie. And though it is good, I wouldn't say it's my favorite vampire universe. I would say it's still a loved vampire universe. But as of right now, I think I'm going to put The Invitation at the number 20 spot. And I say that because as it goes for horror movies, for lack of a better term, I would say it's very subtle until like the final 20, 30-ish minutes. The next movie I have is Wish Upon. Now, this one is what I would consider like baby horror, which is kind of like that category of horror that is like, it's supposed to be one of those first horror movies you get introduced to because it is not as scary as other horror movies. I don't think the movie is even rated R. I might be wrong, but overall, I do think the story is interesting. You know, it kind of takes the opposite. You know, if we have all these wishes and just things end up going wrong instead of going right. But again, because it's baby horror, I feel like it reads as baby horror, right? And so when you compare baby horror movies to, you know, full-blown horror movies, you know, they're good, but they just miss that oomph that real scary horror has. Because of that, I am going to put Wish Upon at the number 22 spot. Next, we have the 1990, because there's two that show up on this list, but the 1990 version of It. I know this movie is kind of considered a cult classic, but one thing that I've noticed, especially when some of the first horror movies I've ever seen are very, very gory and very, very like in your face horror, when you go from seeing that to going back to movies, horror movies made in the early 90s, 80s, and 70s, those movies just genuinely aren't as scary because they didn't show a lot of the stuff and a lot of the nasty, crazy, gory horror that we show now. Because of that, like if I'm just simply comparing the 1990 It to the 2017 It, I just prefer the 2017 It because I think honestly it makes Pennywise out to be much more scary than the 1990 Pennywise. And I'm not even including the miniseries, I'm just simply talking about the movie. Like, for example, when it comes to Georgie's death in the 1990 version, it's a cut to black versus in the 2017 version. I feel like that scene alone just cements Pennywise as being this terrifying creature. And I feel like, again, that was missing in the 1990 version. And I also like the fact that they broke the book into two movies in the rebooted version of the It story instead of doing it how the book was structured in the 1990 version. So, as it goes, I think honestly, I know this is going to make some people mad, but I'm going to put the 1990 It in the 26th spot. Next up, we have the Conjuring series. Now, I've been tuning into every Conjuring movie that has come out. I would say it is a good horror series. It's not my favorite. I don't think I have a favorite just of yet, but it is a very good series. I've rewatched the movies multiple times. I do have movies that I like more than others within the series, but looking at the series as a whole, I think it is a good job of almost kind of being like, Scooby-Doo episodes, basically, where we just get to see, again, Ed and Lorraine go on their different cases and see all the, more so than gore, all the possession that happens within the series. And I think overall, I just think honestly, it's an entertaining horror series. So for that, I think I'm going to put the Conjuring series at the number 7 spot, just one above Annabelle Comes Home, because again, I just feel like as it goes for horror series, each movie does a good job at expanding the series instead of making the series like a little bit meh. Because you know how some movie series is where like as you get further along in the series, it's kind of like I like the first two, the third one just isn't giving what the first two gave. But I think The Conjuring has done a good job of still being consistent with keeping the series as good as the first one. So again, it's going in the number 7 spot. Next up is the Final Destination series. Now I really, really like the Final Destination series. There was just one day during the summer that my body woke me up randomly at like 7 a.m. and I just stayed in bed till about like 12 just watching the entire series. And again, I love them. I think one of the things that makes me enjoy or interested in the series is the creative ways that death as a entity comes for all of its victims. It also reminds me of the TV show A Thousand Ways to Die. And I was watching that TV show at an age I shouldn't have been watching that TV show, but the one death from that TV show I distinctly remember is it was this guy and he had set out a slide, like a water slide in his backyard, and there was a nail on the water slide. And so he slid down the water slide and then, because the nail was there, he just opened. But that domino effect of just kind of seeing all the creative ways that death comes for people is one of the reasons I love the series. I would say my favorite one is, I believe, the one with all the kids on the roller coaster. But yeah, I think honestly, I'm going to put the Final Destination series at number 6. That might be too bold, but I just think it is a really good series and I do like it more than The Conjuring, and I already put The Conjuring series at 7, so I'm going to put it at a number 6. Next up, we have the rebooted It 2017 series, that being It and then It Chapter 2. I really love these movies. As it goes for horror movies that I've rewatched or just watched in general for October, I watch the two It movies all year long. Like, not even just in October. I will sometimes honestly put the It movie on in the background when I'm just doing normal tasks. I don't know what that tells you about me, but I just do that because I just think it's a good movie and I really enjoy the movie. I enjoy learning about Pennywise as a entity. I think the lore of the universe is interesting. And yeah, I truly feel confident putting this It series at the number 5 spot because I just watch it so often that I think I'd be wrong if I didn't say it was one of my favorite series. Next up, we have Child's Play. And I say specifically Child's Play because I have not seen all the movies in the Chucky series. As it goes for Child's Play, I would definitely say I enjoyed Child's Play more than I enjoyed the 1990 version of it. And overall, I do think it's a good movie. And I think one of the things that I like about it is that in this movie, more than other movies in the series, Chucky is inanimate. Like most of the time, we only see the good guy doll and then we just see the little boy interacting with it. And it isn't until like late into the movie that we actually see Chucky be animated. And I like that. I feel like if I hadn't known about the Chucky series my entire life, seeing that for the first time would have made me love it more, if that makes sense. Because I've known about Chucky my entire life, the doll that kills, right? But going to the theater to see it the first time, like back in the 80s, and just seeing this kid be like, oh, Chucky wanted this, Chucky did that, and then seeing that Chucky actually is the one who wanted this and then did that, it would have got me. Not like scared me, but I would have been like, oh my gosh. So, as for that, I think I'm going to put Child's Play at the number 12 spot. Next up, I have the Saw series. I definitely enjoyed the first few Saw movies, but as we get further in the series, one thing that I personally just don't mesh with when it comes to horror movies is unnecessary gore. And what I mean by that is if gore is just happening just to happen and it's not necessarily furthering the plot of the movie. And I feel like this is kind of one of the things that like ends up happening later in the Saw series. Also, the story of like the different people being the different ones that set up the different traps. It just kind of reminds me of like the Pretty Little Liar situation where you're trying to figure out who A is. And so I don't know. That is really the only thing that is my gripe about this series. If you were to ask me which one is my favorite, it is the one where everyone is trapped in the house. I think it's the third one, but do not quote me on that. But yeah, I think I'm going to put the Saw series, I think, at the number 19 spot. Next up, we have the Escape Room series. I was a bit reluctant to include this one, but again, Google put it as horror movies, and so that's why I included it. I really enjoy the Escape Room series. I like the element where, all these different things happen to, in general, create this outcome. And so, like, seeing people solve these puzzles to get out of these rooms, I just enjoy it. I think also the aspect of going to an escape room in the normal world, and of course, if you run out of time, you get to leave, versus actually seeing the other end of it where if you do not escape this room, you do not get to live any longer. I think it's just an interesting concept. I especially like the aspect in the first movie where each room was meant to represent a different person. So yeah, I think I'm going to put the Escape Room series, I would say, at the number 9 spot. I think it's funny. I put the one above it at 19 and this one going at 9. Next up, we have Weapons. One of the only reasons I actually ended up even seeing Weapons is because I was hanging out with a friend and she wanted to go to the movies and she was like, I want to see this movie. And I was like, okay, I'll just watch it. I had no original plans of going to actually see this movie, not because I didn't think it was going to be good. I saw just the trailer, and kids being creepy in movies has never been something I found to be scary, if that makes sense. So I didn't think this movie was going to be for me. I didn't think I was the audience for this movie, and I was correct. I thought it was interesting to find out how all the kids went missing throughout the duration of the stories, but again, kids being creepy just has never been a horror movie plot that has, gotten me. So on this list, I think I'm going to put this movie at the number 27 spot. Next up, we have the I Know What You Did Last Summer series. And I'm specifically talking about the movies that came out in like the 90s. I'm not including the new one that came out because to me that's a reboot, so it's completely separate. I don't know which one came out first, if it was Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer, but they just both remind me of each other in the way where it's like a unknown killer coming to get revenge in some way. Well, I guess the Scream is not coming to get revenge for the most part, but you get what I'm saying, where it's like the killer is coming for a certain group of people, basically. And as it goes, I honestly liked the second movie with Brandy more than I liked the first one, but of course, I think the first one does a good job of setting up the story. And I also think, like, because I recently rewatched the first movie, I think I understood the movie my second time around watching it than I did the first time around watching it, because I think I completely missed who the killer was and what the background plot of the story actually was. But beyond that, overall, comparing this series to the other movies we have on this list, I would put the I Know What You Did Last Summer series at the number 11 spot because I just think it's a good watch as it goes for horror. It's not necessarily that spooky, it's not that gore filled, it's more of a jump scare type of movie with a little bit of gore, and I just think it's a decent horror movie to watch if you're looking for horror. So again, it's going at the number 11 spot. Next up, we have Talk to Me. I didn't watch Talk to Me when it first came out because I never got a chance to go and see it in theaters. I wanted to, but again, I never got the chance, so I had to wait till it came out on streaming. And as it goes for horror movies, I would say, I'm just trying to be nice, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. I do think it is a good plot line, and the subplots of the story are very interesting. And to have a movie where my name is in it, I'm sorry, but that's just kind of rare. Like, you don't see, in my opinion, a lot of characters that are also named Jade. So to hear my name so many times in a movie, I've come to realize that I just I don't like it as much as I thought I would. But as it goes for the movies on this list, when it comes to comparing it to the movies on this list, I guess you should say, I think I could confidently put it at the number 17 spot because I would for sure watch it again. I'd probably watch majority of these movies again. It's just like, again, there's movies on here I know I liked more than it, especially that being as of right now standalone movies. So yeah, it's going at 17. Next up, we have The Woman in the Yard. I was actually excited to go see this movie, but it just, for me, it didn't end up living up to what I thought it was going to be. I did like how it was an artistic take on a mother going through, like, I would guess, depression and struggles. I think that it is an interesting take on that, but the execution just didn't do it for me. Like, if you put me in a room and said I either had to watch Weapons or I had to watch The Woman in the Yard, I think I would honestly still choose The Woman in the Yard. But overall, I think part of the reason I'm putting this one lower on the list is because I was so excited for it, and then I was slightly disappointed. Also, I think it's baby horror, and again, like I've said, I just seem to not be as ecstatic about baby horror as I am about higher horror. So I think I'm going to put The Woman in the Yard at the number 25 spot. Next up on this list, I have Barbarian. Barbarian is another movie that I probably wouldn't have watched unless a friend showed it to me. You know, I try to go into movies with open minds, but you know how there's just sometimes you can just read the description of a movie and know that it's not necessarily for you. This, again, is one of those movies. I just kind of knew off the synopsis that this just wasn't the type of movie that was going to be for me, and then I watched it and I was proven right. It's not a bad movie at all by any means. I would recommend you go and watch it if you have not seen it. But again, the kind of like, not necessarily home invasion, but the something living in my basement plot line has just never been for me. So, again, it wasn't one of my favorites. So I think I'm going to put it at the number 28 spot. And the reason I'm doing that is because right above it is Weapons. And I was like, would I rather watch Weapons again or would I rather watch Barbarian? And I'd rather watch Weapons again over watching Barbarian again. So going at the number 28 spot. Next up, we have Sinners. I watched Sinners twice in theaters, and outside of theaters, I think I have seen it another 2 times. And before Halloween, I plan on watching it again. I really enjoyed Sinners. I think it's one of those movies where, you could have so many different conversations about it because there's so many different things to talk about and elements to talk about when it comes to this movie. And as someone who has a degree in artistic acting world, I just genuinely love all the different elements that show up in this movie and all the different conversations this movie can start. And it has definitely become one of my favorite horror movies. I think the soundtrack alone is amazing. So I will confidently put Sinners at the number 2 spot. I just don't feel like I'm happy with putting anything at number 1 yet. but I do think Sinners would definitely make it to the top 5. So as of right now, I'm putting it at the number 2 spot. Next up, we have The Shining. The Shining, again, is one of those movies that I noticed more the second and third time watching it than I did the first time watching it. And even then, I think it's one of those movies where I need to watch a YouTube breakdown on it because there are still, I would say, some elements that I don't understand. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to need that for movies, but personally, I prefer movies where you can understand the plot or what is going on simply off maybe watching the movie multiple times versus needing someone to explain the movie to you later. And again, that can just be a me thing. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, because I still have watched this movie multiple times and have unanswered questions, and I'm not sure if those questions are meant to stay unanswered and be theories, or if they're unanswered because it's not clearly stated or clearly in the plot visually there. And again, this might just be a me thing. It's going to go lower on the list for me. So for that, I'm going to put The Shining at the number 14 spot. Next up, we have Us. Now, I would more so consider Us to be a psychological thriller, but again, Google put it as horror, so that's why I included it on this list. And I very much enjoy Us. I don't know why it's not available on any streaming sites that I have, because I would enjoy watching it as one of my movies that I'm watching this Halloween. But I have written so many essays on Jordan Peele movies in general, so of course Us is going to be up there in one of my favorites. Out of the 3 Jordan Peele movies that have come out so far, I would say Us has to be my favorite. Then it goes Nope, and then Get Out. I just like the idea of us having a doppelganger. I think doppelganger stories have always been like crazy, and I think it is funny that the scene in Us, the mirror scene where Adelaide is in the like haunted house, practically mirrors the mirror scene that happens in the Bratz sleepover movie. I'm not saying that Jordan Peele saw the Bratz sleepover movie, but to say that those scenes are practically the exact same thing is just funny to me. Anyways, I'm going to put Us at the number 4 spot. Next, we have the Scream series. I like the first few Scream movies, but as we get further into the series, it's kind of like how it is for the Saw movies for me. It doesn't stick as well. And I've seen all of them. I've seen them in theaters, in fact. I think I've watched a few of them on the plane as well. The plot as the movies go on is not my favorite, but I do like the killer constantly coming for them plot line. And I think another thing that also lowers this movie for me is the later characterization, I hope I said that word correctly, of our teen to college student characters. I think back in the 90s when the movie was first coming out, the writing was very like these teens are teenagers but they talk like normal people, and then you get into the later movies and some of the later dialogue is just it reads, in my opinion, as someone who is older trying to write a teenager. And one thing I've always preached is that if you're trying to write a teenager, I even said this as a teenager, right? Just write like you're writing a normal person, because teenagers talk like normal people, or at least the teenagers I grew up around talked like normal people. So that's one of the things that kind of just lowers it for me. So I think for that, I'm going to put the Scream series at the number 16 spot. I keep looking down because I'm trying to make sure that I don't repeat numbers. So 16. Next up, we have the Evil Dead Rise, or Evil Dead Rise. There's no the. I added the Evil Dead Rise. As it goes for horror movies, I would say watching this in theaters, this was the first horror movie out of every horror movie I've seen where I could actually possibly see myself being scared. I wasn't scared, but this was the one of the only ones that I could see myself actually getting scared at. I think it has a good level of gore. There's no unnecessary gore. I also think, like the It series, it doesn't stray away from letting you know that nobody is safe. Everybody can get got. And I think it does a good job because of that, of showing how evil the said villains are of the story. So honestly, I would have to put Evil Dead Rise at the number 3 spot. Next up, we have The Thing. While I did like The Thing, it definitely is going to have to go in a lower place on my list, especially when you compare it to the other movies I have on this list. I think the story as a whole, very good. I just think as it goes for like horror and gore on my list of things, it's pretty chill. I also do like the ending being up for question. I've watched quite a few YouTube, not only summaries, but deep dives into the movie because, again, I do find the story very interesting. And I like the idea that we do not know whether our main character at the end of the movie is infected or not. I also do like the fact that the entire time we're also questioning everybody and we don't know who to trust, who not to trust. I just like that element within horror movies. I just think it does a good job for drama, which is going to be something we see in another movie on this list. But I think I will put The Thing at the number 18 spot. Next up, we have The Black Phone. I think The Black Phone is very interesting horror movie. I'm reluctant to say not necessarily good, it's just what the movie is and the topic that it tackles is just like it's so real that it kind of hits my heart a little bit. It's a good movie, don't get me wrong, but that one just like it kind of gets me, not in like a horror way as it goes for horror movies, but in just like a dang type of way. So, as it goes for horror movies, though, I would say I did like the element of only the kid being able to hear the phone and the other kids being able to help him. And it was almost kind of like, and I'm kind of inferring this, I'm hypothesizing this, I'm not saying that this is necessarily true, but it was almost like the other kids, as they continued to build up, each of them having experienced a different thing, were able to all collectively give him information that without each of them, he would have, perished, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I'm going to put The Black Phone at the number 10 spot. Next up, we have Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And this was the one I was talking about that kind of is like The Thing in the way where like everyone is suspicious of everyone, and I do like that story element, and I also do like the reveal at the end of Bodies, 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 where none of them were the killers. The guy actually ended up accidentally offing himself. But again, as it goes for comparing this horror movie to the other horror movies on the list, especially when it goes for movies centering like young adults and teens, the last few movies we have on this list are also like that, and comparing this one to those ones, I would say this one is definitely lower on the list for me. Again, I did enjoy it, but it's kind of like the later Scream movies where in some of the dialogue you could tell it was someone trying to write what they believed a teenager or a young adult would talk like. So yeah, as of right now, I think I'm going to put Bodies, Bodies, Bodies at the number 21 spot. Next up, we have the Fear Street series. Now, I genuinely love the Fear Street series. I think the first 3 movies are my favorite. The last one I didn't enjoy as much, so I feel like that kind of brings the movies down a little bit. I'm also a bit confused as to how it was connected to the Fear Street universe, simply because personally, as an audience member, I was expecting the rest of the Fear Street movies that were attached and had the Fear Street name to be kind of stories or movies centering around the prior killers that we've seen earlier in the series, and this movie wasn't that. At least I do not believe it was that. It seemed kind of like, it didn't have anything really to do with the original series. Now, it might be connected because it's one of the books. I understand like the Fear Street series is based on the books. I haven't personally read them, so I would understand if that's the reason it was a Fear Street movie. But other than that, I just didn't feel like it went along with the main 3 movies. And like as I was watching the movies, I just thought it was funny because it takes place in, I believe, 1988, which I think my parents were juniors in high school in 1988. So I just think it's interesting to see a series where if I were to place my parents in universe, they would be about like 16, 17 years old. So the same age as the characters in this movie. But that's neither here nor there. Nothing to do with this series at all. Fear Street as a whole, again, I think the last one brings it down, but not by that much because I think the first 3 Fear Street movies are really, really good. They're just overall good as a whole, and I genuinely love them. I've actually been watching them over the past few days. One thing I like that I think the story established in the first movie is, again, that no one is safe. And I enjoy that about a series because oftentimes, when you are watching movies, you can tell like the main character or the main people we're watching, they're all safe. We don't have anything to worry about when it comes to them. There's no fear you feel that they are in imminent danger, because in most movies, even though our main characters might face some trials and tribulations, they normally come out with their lives. But what the Fear Street 94 does is like establish that not all of our main characters are safe, because two of our main characters in the first movie end up perishing. So again, I just like that. So as of right now, because I can't put it any higher, I am going to put the Fear Street series at the number 23 spot. I'm excited to be able to revamp this list because I can already tell you right now this would definitely go higher. Next up, we have the Happy Death Day series. Now, I very much enjoy these movies. I love a good time loop. I love a good time loop, which is something you're going to see in our last movie that we're reviewing on this list. But again, yeah, I love a good time loop, and I just feel like the movies just kind of remind me of my late teenage years, basically, I should say. I think the one thing about the series that is kind of my gripe is the fact that the movie was advertised using In the Club by 50 Cent as the ringtone for her phone, and then in the movie that wasn't her ringtone. I think that's the one thing that kind of like, again, is my gripe with this series. I'm like, why? Because that would have been such a cool ringtone for her to have in the movie. I understand why, like the logistics of the background and stuff, but like that was just my one. I was so excited for that to be her ringtone when I went to go and see this movie in theaters, and then it was never in the movie. But other than that, I like Tree as a character as well, and I think we also get to see more of her in the second movie. I also liked the fact that in the second movie, instead of it just simply being another time loop in the same way, we're also kind of in a different universe, which again kind of expands the world a bit more. I don't think they're doing a third movie, but if they ever were, I'd be interested to see like where they could possibly take it even further. We've already done time loop and we've done different universe and time loop, so it's like different universe, time loop, and then something else. I don't know, but yeah, overall I wouldn't say it's as scary of a horror movie as some of these other ones on the list, but kind of like what I said for The Thing, I just think it's like if you want a horror watch, a chill horror watch, this is a chill horror watch. So as right now, again, because I cannot put it any higher, I'm going to put it at the number 24 spot. Last but not least, we have Until Dawn. I remember back in like, I don't know, was it 2016, 2017, watching all the gaming YouTubers, and I mean all of them practically, play the games. I very much at that time enjoyed seeing the different outcomes each of the gamers got. And I mean, I understand why people didn't like it. Like, if you are strictly comparing it to the game, it is not really like the game at all. But if you're thinking of this movie as something completely separate than the game and not thinking about the game and this movie existing in the same universe, I really enjoyed this movie. I actually watched it for the first time early last week, and I literally rewatched it with my friend last night because I wanted to rewatch it again, but I also wanted to see somebody else's reaction to it. And like I said with the Happy Death Day series, I love a good time loop, especially when it comes to a time loop and people are trying to right the mistakes that they made in the first time loop and then continuing to try to piece it together and survive as they continue forward. I did like the movie. I also think as it goes for like teen movies, these teenagers are written better than other teenagers that I've talked about in the series, or young adults in general. So yeah, but because I literally have no more spots, I'm going to put Until Dawn at the number 1 spot. So now we have reached the end, and I know I did not say it earlier, and if this is one of your first videos of mine that you are watching, normally I tell you my list as it is currently now, and then I take a second, I pause the video, and I revamp my list and put movies in different spots. So as of right now, I'm going to read you my current list, 1 being my all-time favorite, and 28 not being my least favorite by any means, but just compared to every other movie on this list, it went a bit lower. Again, I want to stress I do not hate any of these movies. Yes, some of these movies probably wouldn't be my first pick if I was to either recommend or watch a horror movie, but none of them are bad. They just simply were not my cup of tea. But yes, let's get into it, going from number 1 all the way to number 28. So we have Until Dawn, Sinners, Evil Dead Rise, Us, the 2017 It series, the Final Destination series, the Conjuring series, Annabelle Comes Home, the Escape Room series, the Black Phone, the I Know What You Did Last Summer series, Child's Play, the A Quiet Place series, The Shining, Jennifer's Body, the Scream series, Talk to Me, The Thing, the Saw series, The Invitation, Bodies, 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 Wish Upon, the Fear Street series, the Happy Death Day series, The Woman in the Yard, 1990's It, Weapons, and Barbarian. Now, again, I'm going to see you in zero point 0.2 seconds after I have thought about and reworked this list. So, I have reworked the list. It actually didn't take as long as I thought it was going to take. So, let's go through the revamped list. Again, starting at number 1 being the top and 28 being the bottom. We have Sinners, the 2017 It series, Until Dawn, Evil Dead Rise, the Fear Street series, the Final Destination series, the Conjuring series, Us, the Escape Room series, Annabelle Comes Home, the Happy Death Day series, the I Know What You Did Last Summer series, the Black Phone, Child's Play, Jennifer's Body, the Scream series, The Thing, The Shining, The Invitation, the Saw series, the A Quiet Place series, Talk to Me, Bodies, 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 Wish Upon, the 1990's It, The Woman in the Yard, Weapons, and Barbarian. So that is my list. I'd be interested to see where you put all these horror movies. Feel free to put your list in the comment section down below. You can either explain yourself or you don't have to. But thank you so much for watching this video. Liked it if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more of me. I hope you have a good weekend, weekday, weeknight. And I hope you have a good Halloween as well. And bye!